Federal agents have announced that they have arrested someone in connection to a bomb threat hoax that targeted Boston's Children's Hospital. Now, before we get any further, just want to give you a reminder about what that story had to do with. Back on August 30th of this year, someone called the hospital saying, quote, "This is a bomb, or there is a bomb on the way to the hospital. You better evacuate everybody, you sickos." And then the threat forced police to investigate the threat, of course, and they closed down the immediate area. Now, luckily, there was no bomb and no one was hurt, but I'm glad that the authorities continued investigating this because it was important to figure out who was behind it. And we've learned that it's a woman by the name of Catherine Leavy. Leavy is charged with making a telephonic bomb threat and appeared in federal court in Boston for a hearing today. And so federal campaign data shows numerous donations made by Catherine Leavy of Westfield, Massachusetts, to the Donald J. Trump for President Inc. Group, and also the Trump Make America Great Again Committee and the Republican National Committee. So she is very much a right winger, which makes sense because we've been seeing more and more of these threats, which have been spurred by the disinformation spread by that account, Libs of TikTok. And the latest piece of disinformation that has led to a wave of threats against these hospitals, particularly Boston's Children's Hospital, is this notion that they're doing hysterectomies on underage individuals who identify as transgender. So that is a lie. They called in and spoke to two telephone operators over at the hospital. They asked, hey, can someone who's transgender and 16 years old get a hysterectomy? And the operators, who are not medical professionals, who have no idea, said yes, they would be eligible. But obviously that's not true. And the doctors at the hospital made that abundantly clear. But facts don't matter for these people. They're still convinced that they're doing hysterectomies and sex change surgeries on minors at hospitals like Boston's.
Yeah, so look, in the law, there's something called a rebuttable presumption. What it means is, I presume it's going to be like this, but you can rebut it. You can show me that it's not the case. When I watch right-wing media, I have a rebuttable presumption that they're lying. And that presumption does not often get rebutted. But the people watching right-wing media that are right-wingers, they don't know that at all. They don't know that 9 out of 10 times the words coming out of those people's mouths are lies. They nonstop lies. And so there isn't any hysterectomies going on. The hospital, the doctors, the parents, everyone swears up and down. It never happened. It isn't happening. It was made up, right? But does Tucker Carlson come on his show and then say, oh, our bad, it turns out the hospital's not doing it, right? And he not only does he not say that, he says they're mutilating the children. They're chopping them up. And he makes it in the most emotionally charged way so that somebody will, quote unquote, do something about it. So, hey, look at that. It turns out right-wingers went to go do something about it, including calling it a bomb threat. Well, think about it. It's a children's hospital. There's sick kids in there. Even if you don't care about doctors or nurses, and these days Republicans are like, doctors, we don't believe any of them. They keep saying that there's a pandemic and that vaccines work. We hate goddamn doctors. Nurses go on strike. They should be made to work nonstop like the goddamn teachers. I know you hate everybody. I got it. But all right, so even if you get past that, how about the kids? You pretend that you care about the kids. There's sick kids inside the hospital, right? And if you do a bomb threat, they have to take the kids out. What if they're on a ventilator? What if they need around-the-clock treatment? And now you're going to move everybody to the hospital because you were so stupid you believed a guy like Tucker Carlson. Okay, stop being stupid and try different kinds of media. I know corporate media lies in its own way, right? But try to get some sort of real facts in your life and stop violently attacking the rest of us. And yes, this is a form of violence. I'm super glad she was arrested, and she should do real time in jail.
Yeah, and look, I think everyone in the country at this point, because of the way things are set up with the algorithms, everyone lives in their own political filter bubble where they're never presented a different opinion. And if they're ever presented a different opinion, they have such a weird reaction to it. Like the vitriol and the backlash is pretty incredible. I do want to provide you one example because Matt Walsh happens to be one of the individuals out there who's been spreading lies about Boston's Children's Hospital, and it has very real consequences because, as the Daily Beast notes, the hospital has so far received well over a dozen distinct threats. FBI Special Agent in Charge Joseph Volanta told reporters, adding that the matter is being treated as a top priority. With that said, here's a look at what leads to the kind of threats that these people are dealing with.
Today on the Matt Walsh Show, children's hospitals around the country are butchering, mutilating, and sterilizing their young patients. So according to Boston Children's Hospital, literally every toddler who has ever been born or will ever be born is trans. Now, if it seems like they're casting the widest imaginable net in order to catch the most children they can and put them all on a path to sterilization and butchery before they can even talk, well, that's because that's exactly what these monsters are doing. And they've done it up until this moment without much resistance from the public. But that has to end. We have to stop making it so easy on them. And that's why I'm in the very early stages of trying to organize a national coordinated effort to fight back against this evil. You know, it's really just a matter of where do we begin? Maybe we begin at Boston Children's Hospital.
Wow. I mean, look, I try to be as understanding as possible, knowing what our media landscape is like, knowing what algorithms do, knowing that people exist in their own filter bubbles. So I don't like to be overly critical toward people because propaganda is a hell of a drug. But how does anyone listen to that segment and believe what Matt Walsh is saying? How do you listen to that and actually think it's true? Like there isn't a moment in your mind where you might question the accuracy of what he's saying. I mean, and Cenk, like you and I talk about this all the time. I'm actually going to bring a part of that conversation public right now. We might be the only show in the country where the audience is like ready to call us out. Like the audience is ready to question the accuracy of what we're saying. And by the way, I wouldn't have it any other way. But we're literally the only ones. Everyone else has an audience that's like, yes, what you say is 100% true. I'm just going to believe it. I'm going to take it at face value. That is insane. Like, I don't get it. I don't get it. How do you listen to that and think, yeah, nailed it. That must be true. Yeah, that's exactly what's happening at Boston's Children's Hospital.
Yeah, I mean, our audience questions us from time to time. You know why? Because we encourage them to. We say, hey, listen, to make sure you're getting facts, make sure you're getting opinions from different sources, and have an independent judgment for yourself. And by the way, we also talk about how preset ideologies are not necessarily the correct solution 80 years later after they were said, whether they're from the left or the right, et cetera. So we try to cultivate an open-minded audience, and we get an open-minded audience, right? But the rest of media doesn't do that, including corporate media. Corporate media says, okay, no, this is what you need. I mean, we just did a story about it earlier in this show, where CNN and every corporate media outlet is saying, hey, might be a strike of railroad workers, and every one of them frames it as, I can't believe the railroad workers are going to do this to America, right? None of them frame it as, I can't believe the railroad companies are going to do this to America by not sharing 3.5% of their profits with the workers, right? So it's all in the framing when it comes to corporate media and mainstream media. When it comes to right-wing media, well, look, they prey on people who are more gullible. They got to sell that Instahard, and I'm not joking. Like the con men look for the easiest marks, and the right wing historically in this country has been the easiest mark. It's not an accident that almost all the con men are on their side. So look, our politicians are pretty obvious themselves. They take corporate money and they do whatever their donors tell them, even though the lying media tells you, oh, no, they're having honest debates. But when you have a criminal con man like Donald Trump, he's not going to go to the left. If the left is where the suckers were, he'd go to the left. When you have an outlet like Fox News that just wants to, brainwash people with obvious, absurd lies for profit, they're not going to go to the left. They're going to go to the right because it's easier marks. So, I mean, Anna, how many times have we heard a story in a production meeting that seems to favor our side, and we go, you guys sure? Because that sounds much, right? And then we then look into it and we research it, et cetera, right? Whereas Fox News sees and Daily Wire and all these guys, they come up with the most ridiculous lies that a child could tell isn't true. Really, at Boston Children's Hospital, they think every kid is trans, and then they've taken these kids and they're mutilating them and chopping them up. They're doing it to every kid. Like, you'd really have to be, God.
Okay, I mean,
hate
look.
to say it, but you're the marks. You're the suckers at the table. That's why con men who are obvious liars like Matt Walsh, one of the most obvious, dumbest liars in American media, can trick people. That's super sad.
Also, just follow the logic of what he's saying, right? So, oh my God, they're brutalizing these children. We must do something. So what, like bomb the hospital? What happens to the children in the children's hospital then? And by the way, like, I don't mean to open this up because I know it's a heated debate and I really don't feel like engaging in that debate. But if you want to talk about genital mutilation, I mean, it does circumcision count, or is circumcision okay because it's a religious thing for most people, not everyone. Some people do it for whatever. It's cleaner, safer, whatever they think it is. But it's just amazing how genital mutilation in some cases totally fine. Genital mutilation in their minds, in the case of someone who identifies as trans, not okay. We must bomb the hospital.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, Anna, you're 100% right. And then I got to say two things about that. If we did the same thing and we said, hey, there's this hospital, it's a Catholic hospital or some sort of a religious hospital, and they're chopping up little kids' body parts. They're doing genital mutilations, this thing they call circumcision. Well, it's technically true. They are, all those hospitals do circumcision. I mean, you could frame it as genital mutilation. I wouldn't frame it that way, but you could. And then they are chopping things, right? And so we could say it that way and be like, isn't somebody going to do anything about it? They think all the kids should be chopped up, and they're chopping them up right now. Like, we would never do that because we're not outrageous liars who are trying to provoke violence like Matt Walsh is. So he knows that they're not doing it to all the kids. He knows they're not doing it to any of the kids. And so they're just more immoral than we are. They have no morality. They're evil people like Matt Walsh. They're disgusting sickos. And their side is more prone to violence. They know that, so they want to egg it on because they think, well, we can't win with ideas because we're idiots. So we have to lie and we have to provoke violence in order to win. That's how dumb people win, through violence. So that's what he wants, and that's what he's getting. So we would never do that to them because we are moral human beings, unlike they are.